They tried to do the family bit of Fast and Furious, but the thing with Fast and Furious is, like, Vin Diesel is apparently so badass he actually turns into an earthbender. Like, there's a bit where he stamps the floor and, like, concrete breaks. And you're like, all right, sure. So I think the thing, it works for Fast and Furious because it has a commitment to being over the top and just doing rule of cool. I think that's essentially where they kind of fucked up with Dragonflight. They forgot the bit where they actually had to be exciting as an interactive story. So I think that's the main problem. But certainly, like, it is a concern to me for sure that we could get a Blizzard that pulls all their punches. Because the thing that gets me is those moments with those characters, to me, they feel really empty and hollow because they're so unbalanced. I know in like UK and Ireland, we are way more sarcastic than the Americans tend to be. We are way more gallows humor. We often offend them a lot, which is very funny. But I think that bleeds through into some of our preferences in storytelling. A little bit, right?
To a certain degree, yeah. I think by default, kind of
worry that they go. My worry basically is they go way too like soft modern, because most of the soft modern stuff that I've seen, it just ends up being really toothless. And I think most importantly, it's like a weird personal therapy escapism. It doesn't really feel like it's honest and true to the human experience, and to me, that makes it quite weak and ineffective.
That's one of the things that. It works in side stories and small stories. I think when you have a very small thing and you get to like carefully craft like here's the experience of how someone deals with like their brother's injured, or I can't remember the context for that one. The Centaur quest where it's the shard of lightning thing makes him strong and mental. That bit, like, that felt really good. It was kind of short and sweet and had one small part to it. Same with the Tyvan one, that was fine. But you can't really take the same principle and apply that to the larger story. You kind of need a little bit more and a lot kind of stronger element to it. You need something a little bit more traditionally epic or traditionally mythic, as Metzen put it. You want something that's more, like you say, true to the general human experience, as opposed to telling a small personal story. And obviously, you could say, well, obviously, like, family and belonging and stuff like that is key to it. But that wasn't really. Felt a little bit like an afternote. Like, this is the point, but we kind of knew it. We need something a lot more, I guess, traditionally hero's journey-ish in a way. Not that you just have to repeat that same thing over and over again, but you still need to hit all the major beats of good, strong story, which is difficult when you're trying to pull your punches, or you're just trying to tell a very specific small bit of what's going on, or something that's too generic, which is another problem. And that's what the Dragonflight thing feels to me. Where it is just, or like the way that cinematic panned out was largely, and we were wrong, but together we are right. And like, cool.
Woo! There's this is what I'm going to call a counter super from. Sorry, I just noticed your profile picture. That is actually, it wishes from Mistelferno. It wishes it was My Little Pony, Demon's Revenge, at least G4. I haven't seen G5 yet. So, I don't know the difference between a G4 and a G5, but at least the thing with MLP, from what I understand, it does actually have quality in it.
I couldn't tell you, thankfully. I assume there's something, otherwise people wouldn't like it as much. Yeah,
there's got to be a way in which it does end up going hard. Because so many people love it. I feel like the friendship is magic is almost certainly earned. And I think the reason why it comes off as being a bit cringy and inauthentic in Dragonflight is that it feels profoundly unearned. It was just the thing of like, I was watching that cinematic and I was just thinking of watching Avatar. Right? And like, Avatar is so fucking good. Literally a children's television show. And it's like, come on, Blizzard. You're actually so scared of doing something that has a little bit of edge in it that, like, you're being shown up. I mean, you're being shown up by one of the best animated series ever made. Which I suppose is a ridiculously high bar to set for them. But But yeah, I don't know. I think they need to learn lessons. That being said, there's weird disconnects because there's a bit in this patch where just you can see in the zone just a bunch of dead night elves. And it's not just dead night elves, it's dead night elves in pools of blood. And you're like, hang on, the dead night elves in pools of blood is happening in the same place where Calicos is like, it's about coming together as family. Like, what is going on? Which to me just says that they're new blisteringly fast. Do you know why I actually think most of this is? Right? Because a bunch of people, like, I did a little rewrite, which literally
man's writing fanfic and putting it on the channel.
No,
like?
I just, you know, when you self-chat GPT, so the way that
fanfic.
The way that those LLMs work is it's actually just all predicting the next word. But the funny thing is, think about how you speak and think about words yourself. Bit spooky, anyway.
I try not to.
Yeah, definitely don't. But I like literally just went, blah, 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 my brain is empty. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, I guess that's done. I put so little thought into it. All these people were like, oh my God, they need to hire you, your things. And I'm just like, no, I just did one iteration on the structure of their thing. And what that says to me is they didn't have time to do any iterations. They're just having to blast in with the first draft. And that just kind of says to me big teething problems with how parallelized they are and just how fast they're developing. Because like one iteration would probably fix half the problems. And you'd hope that anyone with a brain would be able to see those problems. Just
bouncing on with the blinders on, basically, for a variety of production-related reasons. Is almost always certainly the case why anything's bad. I'd say way more times than not, it's because of that. But there's something just on the like children's show thing that I actually remembered. And this was someone tweeting about the first Pokemon movie and how that was basically one of the things that's really good about like working in children's media is that you have to really super sell your themes really hard. And obviously there's a little bit of like, oh, well, where's the subtext? This isn't subtle at all. It actually kind of works because you have to focus on it super hard. And I don't know if you've seen the first Pokemon movie, I'm assuming you have. I assume everyone has.
Oh, the one with Mew.
Mewtwo.
Oh,
Mew.
Yeah,
and the way that like instills values in people by very clearly, like obviously, I don't remember the words because I'm very bad at remembering specific words, but the like Mewtwo's speech at the end about the circumstance of your birth is straight up just like, oh yeah, this is actually a super profound and touching tale about you not being, you know, who you are at birth and like the power of choice, the power of self-sacrifice, the power of choosing your own values as an individual. And that's really good. And it's a kid's movie in every conceivable way. So I just kind of thought to follow up on that. It's like, yeah, being adult or mature doesn't mean that you like are necessarily better at doing themes like that. It just means there's probably people with different tastes and a different approach to it. Like even like you went to the movies to see that and got a Mew card. Me too. I remember that very well. I guess we'll just have a slight Pokemon segment because the movie after that, 2000, was a lot more traditional fantasy hero's journey stuff, getting the 3 magical items and then having the twist at the end and being against like the villain. I was it's just
get the sigils. Complete the story.
Exactly.
Light up the oath stones, finish the story.
Yeah, and there's the prophecy at the beginning with the flute player and all that stuff. And that stuff is basically like, yeah, I see now that the circumstances of one's birth is relevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. Insert the quill on fire gif. Absolutely. Because that's more or less, that's all that is. Yeah, it was a bit of a sidebar, but I think it's like, you can be childish and still tell a really engaging story. That's the point.
Nino of The Last Unicorn said, if you want to go back to Fast and Furious example, those movies show them being family. WoW just tells you and never earns it. And that, show don't tell is like their number one problem. Whenever they do manage to show, it can be really good, right? And that's like the big moments that we all remember. I think it's just the unevenness where, a lot of the scaffolding that holds the whole thing up, half of it's kind of missing. So it means like the plot is there and it could be a good plot, but it's just kind of rickety. The Exorcist, super, thank you. I still remember the Defia storyline in vanilla almost 2 decades later. Dragonflight was just forgettable and generic. That there's a risk of that. So going into Dragonflight, there are bits that are definitely not, like, in my view, that aren't forgettable and generic. Like the Orc Heritage. Orc Heritage is one of the best quests that team has shipped. Many would say the same for the Blue Flight. Many would say the same for like the Forsaken Heritage quest as well. There's like actually plenty of good bits, and as much as I think 10-1 meandered a bit, like Emberthal was handled, like pretty well. Loads of the side quests are really, really good. I think it's just the reason why it probably comes off as that is that its A-plot wasn't always clear, and yeah, it was just a bit messy.
There's also something else which is kind of like, and I don't mean this to discredit what you're saying, but there is definitely a case of, because I've been thinking of this a lot recently, there's games I played, how many years ago? So I played a game called Time Spinner again recently. It's more of a Symphony of the Night-esque, like Igavania, than a Metroidvania.
Yes, of course.
Because I'm a Metroid. I like Metroidvanias, if you can't tell by my choice of attire.
An Igavania.
Igavania, named after Iga, the Castlevania Symphony of the Night director. So I played Time Spinner recently, and I realized 20% through the game that I'd actually played it before and finished it.
No, Matt, that's not profound. That's dementia.
Yeah, so, and then I recently was talking about a visual novel I read, which YMK, and I was like, oh my, I remember like so much of that in every capacity, but I read that 14, 15 years ago. I remember the vast majority of Fits then, and I read that 14, 15 years ago. So there's a little bit of like, you latch on to stuff when you're earlier and remember it better. Basically, I think more or less my point there. But you're also right. Like that quest had like a political theming that was probably pretty like new to you and interesting to you at the time. Whereas Dragonflight stuff doesn't have anything that's like a kind of grander idea. There's a little bit of it with like the Vildraken Accord and the Draconids and stuff like that, but none of it was really super like, oh, this is a theme being shown to me in a new way, or in a way that's really like engrossing and engaging, something you'll remember with like a big bit happening. It's kind of was a lot of small things worked, and the big plot was like, whatever. Like, I'll remember the Taiwan stuff, and I'll remember the Veridistrad stuff because that was good.
Yeah,
but those weren't big quest lines or big like chains of stuff. There's like, here's a couple of quests, more or less. They didn't feel like epic journeys. Whereas the Defias did feel like, oh, we're resolving a world problem here.
Yeah, I think that's certainly where a return to some zone-based kind of world-building storylines is good. And I suppose that's, in a way, the magical thing about vanilla. Vanilla wasn't World of Warcraft, big plot. It was just World of Warcraft. So I imagine there was a really cool, like, creative freedom with that.